Well, good morning, everyone. It's March 3rd, 2025, the favorite time of our week because it's Mondays with Bev and Paul. And hi, everybody, my name's Paul.
Morning. This is Bev. Hello,
And good
Paul.
morning, Bev.
Hi.
And good morning to all of you on this wonderful, wonderful, chilly day in Tucson, Arizona. So, we're going to build on our workshop we did last Thursday evening. It was on lymphatic health with Hillary Gooden. If you haven't seen it, check it out. She's got some great detailed information there. But we wanted to go over some of the key points there that we didn't have time to go over Thursday night. And we're going to talk a little bit about more about lymphatic health, and a key to the first thing she talked about, which was when she went to this one doctor or healer. He said, if you wanted to start healing, you had to start forgiving. So we're going to
hmm
start with that. But first, we want to
First,
go to our dream catcher. And this week, we have our certified instructor who's now just traveling on the road and will be here in Tucson within the next few days. He was actually driving through yesterday. Dave Clausen.
yay.
Hey, Dave. He was originally living in Durango, but he sold everything, packed it all up, bought himself a big RV with a beat up Volkswagen Volkswagen, and he's just traveling around. So he should be here this week, and hopefully we'll have him on the show next week with us.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, but he wants to come down to the center, and he wants to help us out here and
Yeah,
just connect with everybody again. So
good.
Dave in the center of the dream catcher. If you'd like to be in the center of the dream catcher, send us your name with a picture and where you reside on the planet, and we'll put you in there to get all the good juice from the dream catcher. And we can talk a little more about the dream catcher meaning maybe next week with Dave. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's go back to lymphatic health that started with Hillary's journey of forgiveness, she was told.
Yeah.
Now, how does that apply to BioTouch?
Or anything. Our healing.
Right. So give
I've,
us a
I've
little
come to
scoop.
realize that healing is multi-dimensional. What we call healing. So when she said that at the beginning, I'm wow. Boy, it makes you go deep, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And you
really,
might always kind of go, well, how does that, as you just said, how does that relate to BioTouch?
right. Because, there's numerous, we were talking earlier, one of the greatest shows out recently is Ted Lasso. And those whole 3 seasons, the whole thing is based on forgiveness.
Wow.
And over and over and over, it's not about forgiving someone else for their
Right,
actions. It's the forgiveness is releasing ourself from our judgments and releasing ourselves from that stress and that anxiety that theoretically, it's not about forgiving an act. you
right.
know it's about forgiving our holding on to this act, and it's making us sick. And through
Yeah.
that Ted Lasso movie, it shows it over and over and over again.
Well, and the alternative definition of forgiveness is forgiving love. Forgiveness is forgiving love. And of course, I think I mentioned this earlier, we had talked about people talk about self-healing, self-love. Well, the first thing some great teachers of humanity have said, forgive me this before I forgive them that. Right? So
Right.
forgiving, give myself love so that I can give them love. So that's where that healing begins in each of us with
Right.
that.
And that is the perfect opening about why we do BioTouch. It's
Yeah,
it's about putting love into action, and we said earlier it's about putting forgiveness into action, because one of the main points we bring up all the time is, you don't have to like the person you're working on.
no,
They don't have to like you. You could have different opinions, way extreme, but the touch of BioTouch, that very light butterfly-like touch, the index and middle finger going right to that solar plexus, lightly like a butterfly, boom. Forgiveness. It's forgotten. Everything that's
Yeah,
happened in the
that's
past
great.
in that
Yeah,
moment is
yeah,
forgotten. Doesn't
yeah.
mean I don't judge again. You
Right,
know, I mean,
right.
I had a dear friend used to say all the time, just say I forgive you. Oh, boom. And then here comes the judgment again. Well, I forgive you. You might have to say it 20 times. And then some, I asked him once, I said, well, what happens if you don't believe in forgiveness? What happens if you don't believe it and you say, I forgive you? He said, well, what makes you think that you have to believe in your judgment? What makes you think that's any more real than forgiveness? So,
There you go.
so when
As
in
I
doubt,
said,
just touch.
it's
Yeah.
deep. It's deep. And yet, and yet that light touch on the skin, it does go deep, doesn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she talked a lot about that
We
in re-
talked, I loved it when she said she was talking about, of course, we got to remember this was about lymphoma, lymphedema. Um, when she said that the lymph vessels, this is, the vessels are what carry the fluid throughout the body and distribute that, right? So the lymph vessels are just below the skin. And all it takes is, she actually said this, a light touch. And right
right.
there, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
my goodness, every time you get, can you imagine those sweeps that we do?
Right.
When you're sweeping along the lightly on the skin, you are literally stimulating the lymph system, which is one of the most important things in the physical body that has to be circulated next to the blood, you
So,
know.
for those who don't know, the sweep is where we take the index and the middle finger of each hand and we slowly and deliberately move across an affected area. And
Ah,
that can be anywhere. That's if you
right,
know nothing else in our manual, okay, or the system called BioTouch, and you just did the greeting, you could then just take those two fingers and lightly touch different areas. There might be
right.
she talked about arthritis was a
Oh
lymphatic
man,
problem and
yes,
swelling in the lymph nodes. And so
yes.
you could just take where the pain is and lightly touch all around that area or do that light, sweet, butterfly like touch. And based on her analysis of that, that's going to stimulate the lymph system itself.
One of the other things that she mentioned that I'm like, oh, yeah. She said oxygen is healing,
Right.
right? Oxygen is healing. And I'm thinking, oh, and then she gave us that lovely
Alternate,
alternate
right.
breath exercise. But I'm thinking, well, we actually have a set called the oxygen control.
Right.
And there's a point in there that helps the body to assimilate oxygen from the atmosphere,
Yes.
right?
So let's
Didn't
show
you
it.
use that with your mom
Yeah.
in the hospital?
Yeah. I mean, when she was on intubated and on an oxygen machine, and we've tested it before, you could do this and you could watch the O2 levels rise on those little pulse ox
I
meters.
know.
And it's a very easy set to do. You take the index and the middle finger of one of your hands, it doesn't even matter which hand, and you
Right.
lightly hold, touch, lightly like a butterfly, just below the breastbone in that soft tissue, just below the breastbone. You hold there lightly, and you take your other hand, and there's this little triangle here formed
Yep.
by the collarbone. See the collarbone? The side of the
Yep.
neck and the top of the
Top of the
shoulder,
mhm,
okay? And right in the middle of that little triangle
right there.
is the oxygen control point. It's just on the
Right.
left side.
Right.
So you hold that for 6 to 8 seconds and then you could release it, hold it again 6 to 8 seconds, then release it. And you could just do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many times until you feel
Yeah.
like you're either bored or don't want to do it anymore, or you see the machine change.
Or
That's
you
our
take a big breath or
right, or a
whatever,
big breath,
right?
right? So,
Yeah.
and we've seen that over and over and over.
Yeah.
That's a simple little set to do.
I know. And it's oxygen is healing. Well, who knew?
Who knew? We
Yeah.
learn so much from
Biotouch
these
knows.
workshops. I'll tell you, if you haven't seen any of these workshops, if you go to the health condition up on our website, justtouch.com, we have at least, I don't know, well over 60 workshops we've done. And you can go to pick some of the health conditions you're concerned about. And if the presentation was done, there'll be the full presentation. There'll be the teaching of the sets of points, the few sets of points that
Right.
are needed for that particular condition. And it's all right there. All of them are less than an
Right
hour.
there.
And then if you really want to get the workbook to print out or put onto your computer, well, you can become a member, get the whole manual, but you don't need it. It's all right there in that little uh, less than 1 hour workshop.
So, yep.
The other thing she talked about, which was very interesting, was the body knows.
I know. We
You
say that
know?
all the time, right? The
Bev
body
knows.
knows.
The body knows and Bev knows.
I know that the body knows.
Yes, and yeah, like you just said, we say that all the time.
Take those two fingers. It's like a communication system. Lay them lightly on the skin like a butterfly, and what happens? The body says, "Oh, look at that." And it knows what to do with that touch. And the fact that we have these 17 specific sets of points in the technique so that you can address any area of the body that holds any of those diseases or conditions or issues that come up, the body knows what to do with that touch.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And so our main, not goal, purpose is to encourage you to listen to that body, to
Yeah.
encourage you. That's the self-awareness. And for many, we had this one teacher once, he was actually the head of the truck drivers union or something like that. And he became an instructor.
Wow.
And he stood in front of the class because you're supposed to talk about self-awareness. And he
Yeah.
stands in front of the class and he goes, now I'm supposed to talk about self-awareness. He says, I have absolutely no idea what the hell they're talking about.
What does that mean? That's perfect.
It is perfect because we're not talking about some self-awareness that you get in some esoteric, metaphysical, astrological book out there or somebody who's
Hey, wait a minute.
channeling information to you. You know, that's all fine and good. The self-awareness we're talking about for most of us begins with an awareness of this body.
Yeah.
That's a
Well, that's where it
magical.
all starts, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even astrologically, isn't that true? It's about the manifestation
Oh my
in
gosh.
your body
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how do we learn about our body? We can use all these other things. Those are great tools. But something like BioTouch can help us open that door to make us available to all these other kinds of things that are out there. And we've seen that over and over. People who've done BioTouch, like this particular truck driver, all of a sudden he was open to other kinds of ideas and other
Right.
kinds of diets and other things that he'd never even been aware of.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we try to keep
Interesting.
BioTouch at that body level because that's something everybody agrees to.
Yeah. Everybody's got one.
You know, even those people who say the body's not real, well, you started the sentence with the body.
Oh, really? It's
Hello.
not.
Hello.
Right now in this self-awareness, it's real.
Right. You know, and if you start a sentence with the body, then that means you still have an identity with something that you're trying to
still
say is not
identifying
real.
with
So it doesn't, it's like, let's keep this simple, folks. Healing can be simple. Forgiveness can be simple. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated anymore. It's not about centering yourself. It's not about being an all-kind, loving person. I've shown that over and over and over. You know, I'm a very judgmental person, you know, and BioTouch helps me and has helped me for the past 35 years work through that, you know, and so I don't worry about who does BioTouch on me. You know, it's like, oh, well, I can't have them. They've got bad juju or bad energy or, you know, something.
Yeah, no.
You know, I've practiced it. I've had all kinds of people do BioTouch on me. And you know something? Every single person that did it, there was an effect. And I
Right.
could feel that, even just the greeting, and just feel my body just go, oh,
Ah.
everything's okay.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. That's lovely. Well,
So if you want to work on your lymph system, if you want to practice forgiveness, if you want to start loving the neighbor as thyself, or loving thyself as thy
as thy
neighbor, or
neighbor.
love any way you want it. It's sort of that thing, what's the greatest law, we were told? Well, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. But the second law is like onto it. Love the neighbor as thyself. Well,
Right.
that must be some triad in there. If you're God and the neighbor and the self, if you love all of that, well, that's got to be healing. You
Of
know,
course,
there's got
because
to
it all
be,
comes back to their just one component,
yes.
right?
So
Yeah.
start creating some triangles in your family. You know, start with just one other person, reach out, touch them, do that greeting. Takes 30 seconds for you to do the greeting on someone and for them to do it to you. And as Bev always says, aren't you worth that? Aren't you
Yeah,
worth 30
right.
seconds?
Hey, remember the old saying, when two or three come
Right?
together, you have love and you have healing.
So we're
That's
trying to
why
keep,
touch is powerful in that.
yeah. So we're trying to keep it simple. We're trying to keep it fun. Healing can be fun.
Can.
Healing is fun. You know,
It
it's
is
sort of,
fun.
it's like somebody asked me when I was going in for that radiation and stuff, are you excited about that, Paul? I was like,
That's a great question.
yeah, I am excited. You know, and I just talked to my practitioner, medical practitioner, my head, whatever they call him, PCP, or,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she said, and I told her about the numbers, and she was like, she was like ecstatic, and she said, well, what did you do? I said, well, first thing was I was excited. She says, leave it to you, Mr. Sunshine Paul. Always excited
Oh.
about things, always finding the good in things. Well, you know something? BioTouch has helped me do that as I've
Yeah.
thought about that. It's taken me from my old theories and judgments and, you know, conspiracy, and everybody's out to get me, and I'm out to, you know, I'm going to show some,
I'm dropping out.
yeah, dropping out, you know, that each person has to find their path. And it doesn't matter whether you're going through what we call standard medical, alternative practice, integrated practice, you're doing herbs, or you're eating Big Macs. Your body is going to figure out what it needs if you listen to it. BioTouch helps us listen.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. It really does.
And therefore, what are we doing? We're forgiving our body. We're
That's
forgiving
lovely.
it. We're
We're
forgiving it for its
forgiving the
pains.
body.
Yeah, we're forgiving it for its pains. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Forgiving the body.
yeah.
So join us. We're here every Monday. And we love sharing. If you have something you'd like us to talk about and relate to BioTouch, drop us a note, office@justtouch.com. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week.
Have a
Thanks,
great week.
Bev. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, everyone.
See you all later.
If pain has got you down and you live in town, take a trip down to Pima Street. The people down there are people who care. They will get you back on your feet. Put love into action. Put love into action. If you ever want to have any real satisfaction, choose love while you still can. Don't even try to understand. A healing grace in your own hands. Put love into action.